Hi, and welcome to another edition of Round the Table with CulinArt. I'm Matt Santarpia, Director of Learning and Development for the company, and I am super excited about this particular broadcast. This is something that we've been working on for quite a long time. We've got team members from across the company, and today this special episode features Women's History Month, which is really exciting. We're in the midst of celebrating Women's History Month and the fabulous women that make up CulinArt and Compass Group. And we've got an all-star panel that's going to be delving into women in the workplace at CulinArt, some issues within the hospitality industry, things that empower them from a female perspective. Our goal and our theme is providing healing and promoting hope. And you'll see a lot of that tied into this conversation today. And again, we're thrilled to bring this to you, our series that brings team members from CulinArt Group right to you, sharing these best practices, and most importantly, sharing their stories with CulinArt. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump to our VP of Marketing and Brand Strategy, Bernardi.
Hey, Matt.
Hi.
Hi. So excited to be here. Really looking forward to some honest, open conversation and dialogue around being a woman in the food service industry and everything that means to all of us here at this table today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Allie. I appreciate it. And Allie, you and I don't want to show my age on this video, but you and I go back over 20 years. So Seeing you in this role, and there's a lot of firsts for you with CulinArt. And not only at Compass Group, but in our company as well. First VP, first woman department head. So we've got a lot to talk about. This is certainly a pleasure for me. And thank you, Allie, for being available for this. Let's move on to Alison Rainis. Alison, you're in the Pennsylvania area and you're a chef manager at Mount St. Joseph Academy.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So Alison, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your role with CulinArt.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm a chef manager at Mount St. Joseph's Academy, which is a elite all-girls school right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've been there for this is my third school year coming up, and I've been with CulinArt since 2018. So
wow, long time.
Starting to get my tenure, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Alison, we know how busy all of you are, specifically our operators, so we thank you for being here today, and we appreciate it. We're going to move on to Meghan Lambert-Jackson. And Meghan, I love three names. I was thinking of doing it myself and getting a third name.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me. So I'm here at the Archer School for Girls. I've been with CulinArt since the 2019 school year. And it came here from hotels, also in the Los Angeles area. And it's total difference night and day from going from a hotel, which is like 365, 24 hours a day, to a school where there's so much more like work-life balance.
One of the big selling points, Meghan, for our industry has always been, right, from the very beginning, our neck of the business, if you will, or our side of the business, that's a big selling point, that normalcy, a regular work week. You don't have to work nights and weekends and every holiday. And outside of our events and entertainment divisions, in our corporate and school locations and education, et cetera, even healthcare to some point, we have that flexibility. So that's great, Meghan. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to finish up our introductions with the one and only Heather Mcquaid from our Mid-Atlantic area, recently promoted, Heather, to a regional chef. Is that correct?
Yes. Hello, Matt. Hi, Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Yes, I've been recently promoted back in August. I've been with the company since 2018, and I started out as a chef and worked my way up.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. We love your background over there.
I'm actually in the account that helped me get into the position I'm in now.
Oh, nice how that worked out.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I met with my client and I said, hey, can I use the space? You know, my old client. I said, it feels like home, you know, and coming full circle. And
Sure.
she's just thrilled to let me hang out, you know.
Well, that's great. Well, thank her for us. We appreciate it. So we're going to get into our round the table discussion, and we're going to focus on our Women's History Month initiatives. And, one thing that strikes me when we start these programs, specifically around the table, is the accolades that Compass Group, CulinArt has gotten over the last 2 years. And one great accolade is that we've been named by Forbes magazine as a best employer for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's in the whole country, really the whole continent, most of North America. And that's a wonderful distinction. So we're going to switch things up a little bit and start with you, Heather. Heather, keeping that in mind and knowing that we've gotten that accolade and on the heels now of Women's History Month, what are some things that you do at your location? What are some best practices that you do to keep our diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at the forefront, not only of your mind as leadership, but also our team members?
So I actually have a Brazilian woman that works here. And when we were fully operational, we would have her play in, and we would find out, Brazilian holidays and play into that and say, hey, what can we make? Different things, how they would make a pot pie, which is completely different from ours. A chicken salad, it had pineapples and hearts of palm, something so completely different. And we would introduce it to our customers as, hey, this is Camilla's famous Brazilian dish, we have an Israeli guy, and we celebrate him and have his Israeli salads and his hummus, and his shawarma, I really like to connect with the people that I'm around through the food that they have.
And you're also, Heather, it's so interesting that you say that, because what you're also doing is connecting the dots with our team members. We know, especially when it comes to diversity in the workplace, involving our valuable team members, no matter how basic that sounds, is so important. Involving them in the enterprise, sharing their culture, their identity. Also part of keeping DE&I in the forefront of our locations. Thank you, Heather. Wonderful. I appreciate it. We're going to jump over to California. I love modern technology. And we'll go to Meghan. Meghan, keeping that in mind that Compass Group was named as a best employer for diversity over the last several years, what are some things that you do at your location to make sure we're keeping DE&I in the forefront of our team members' minds?
Well, here at Archer, we've actually been doing a lot of things to make everybody feel included, not only from the day to day, but also in the servery, because isn't it the most amazing feeling when you walk in somewhere and you can see your home life or your individuality represented in the food? So we've actually did a 3-day series with the Asian and Pacific Islander Student Union for the Lunar New Year. And they kind of worked with me, and I said, hey, what do you guys want to see? This is all about you. Let me know some items that you would like. And they gave me a whole list and made decorations for the servery, and it was great. And they even put on presentations for the entire school to discuss the history of the food and the background of the food. And then after that, we did the same thing with the Black Student Union for Black History Month.
Sure.
And then today and tomorrow, we're actually doing Persian New Year at the school. So we've been working with them at the school for today and tomorrow for a special menu.
So interesting. And we have a lot of different avenues or different business types that we operate on this round the table episode today. And the school setting, it's so appropriate to share those cultural days, to share those menu items. And again, involving our team members and also involving our client partners, so important as well. Thank you, Meghan. Alison, let's jump over to Pennsylvania. How about you, keeping diversity, equity, and inclusion in the forefront with you and your leadership team, but also at the account level with our valuable team members?
Well, I think, Meghan and Heather made a lot of great points, and we do very similar programs, but at the Mount where I am, it's really natural, because not only do I have an all female, with the exception of a female teacher, student body, but I also have an all female staff. So it's kind of cool to have that kind of empowerment around us really naturally, because we don't have to really work that hard to involve our women and involve our student body, because we're all kind of in very similar situations.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that. That is interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of parallels.
Yeah, it's great because it's not more, it's the conversation isn't really how do we involve our women, it's here we are.
Right, here we are, and this is what we're doing.
Here's your choice. It's the five of us, and we're all, you know, happen to be women. And again, all of my students are young women, so it comes very naturally to our campus.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Alison. And we'll finish up with Ali Bernardi, because Ali comes from kind of a different mindset, meaning that she's not necessarily in a location, although she's in the business a lot, from a marketing and brand strategy perspective. But Ali, how do we make sure that, you know, an award like that, an accolade like that, is not just lip service, so to speak, but how do we make sure that we're infusing that into our culture?
Well, I think our culture is quite unique, you know, within CulinArt and within Compass Group. When I look around the table and on, you know, Zoom calls and Teams meetings today, I look at, you know, Envision Group and that part of the Compass Group company, and I look at all of the creative leadership that's part of that innovation team that, you know, I work with on a day-to-day basis, and tremendous amount of female power there. And the creativity and the innovation is truly inspiring. And I personally have the privilege of creating some of the promotions and the marketing efforts that we run as a company. You know, a lot of which have to do with diversity and inclusion. We talk about, you know, celebrating diversity through food, which so many of you have talked about here today. And, you know, we're a food company, so it's so easy to bring that to the forefront through food. You know, we celebrate every Heritage Month, every international celebration. We work together, all of our department heads on our monthly calls. We brainstorm, you know, the promotions that we're going to run and how those recipes will be developed. Certainly, Meghan, my wheels are turning thinking about some of the things that you're doing there at Archer School and how we can bring that, you know, those best practices over to the rest of our private school business. So I just think that I'm privileged to be in a position where I can help instill some of the programmatic, you know, developments that drive that path forward for sure.
That's great, Ali, and really interesting, because what we do at CulinArt, which I think makes us very unique, is when we talk about our marketing programs, our strategic initiatives, whether it's technology or training, or promotions, right? Everything you just spoke about, everything we're designing is from the operations or operators perspective, which I think is very unique. You came from an operational background. I came from an operational background. We're surrounded on this virtual table by everyone who has come from an operational background. And I think that's what makes the programs really have legs and be different and hit home from that perspective. Great, terrific, thank you. Now we're going to get into a little bit of a tougher scenario with some questions that I'd love to discuss. And one of the nice things about this Round the Table series is we're allowed to have open and honest dialogue from a company perspective. And this is really interesting, and we hear some great feedback and constructive comments from everyone who has participated up to this point. So let's start with you, Meghan. And let's talk about being a woman in a primarily male-dominated hospitality industry. Now, we're proud to say that at CulinArt and Compass Group, you know, our statistics are very good, meaning that for the most part, our company mirrors what it looks like in the field from a leadership perspective in some areas. A lot of work needs to be done as well. But Meghan, from a personal standpoint, coming up in this industry of hospitality, culinary, etc., how has your experience as a woman played a role in your success today?
Well, I'll be honest, there's definitely been times where it's been a little frustrating and discouraging. But on the brighter side of that, finding a company like CulinArt and Compass, just where it doesn't matter like that I'm a woman, what matters is what I do and what I prove through my work. And then not only that, but being at an all-girls school too, where the environment is just like so welcoming, everyone is so supportive. Like, it's really the first time that I've ever really had that in my career path, which for me is just amazing. Like, it was like, wow, like places like this actually exist. Like, this is a real thing. So I've really, really been enjoying my time here with CulinArt and Compass Group.
Well, Megan, it's interesting, and you bring up a lot of good points. And one thing that I've always heard in my career, and I've always been in this industry since, school many, many years ago, was that, well, we're hiring the best people that apply. And if it happens to be that people apply are 90% men, then that's what we're doing. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just picking the best of the application process. But, that's an excuse. And the nice thing that we see today in 2022 is, how do we change that applicant process? Meaning that, how do we get more women, professional culinarians, hospitality management team members into that mix? And that's what we're trying to do now. And then you see real results. So very interesting, Megan. Thank you. We're going to jump over to Heather. Heather, how about you? Your experience as a woman in a male-dominated industry, how's that affected your career as you continue to expand?
I've actually been very lucky to work under some amazing male chefs. Yes, they are tough. And I think to be in this business, especially food service, is just tough all around, from the dishwasher all the way up to management. I don't know an easy job, but being able to take criticism and rolling with it and proving the people that say, oh no, you're not going to be able to handle that, or can you lift this box, because you're the woman, or something along those lines, and being able to prove them wrong and show them that I am cut out for this, and then I can hang with the boys, or something along those lines, and then earning that respect and being treated as a person on the team instead of just the weaker link is just, I've really been able to prove myself, and had that respect from peers and from men even, especially. But it's nice being able to feel like one of the team, and really proving to them and myself that I'm here for it,
Well, it's nice to be part of a company that reflects these items that you just spoke about, right? I mean, there's positives and negatives to being part of a large organization, but in my opinion, the more positives outweigh the negative by a long shot. And one positive is in being in an environment that fosters this, not only creativity, but dignity and respect. Alison, let's jump to you. How's being a woman in a primarily male-dominated industry affected your career?
Yeah, I mean, again, just to go off what Chef Heather said, you always kind of start behind the 8 ball, and there's always this kind of expectation that you have to prove yourself. But one of the things that I learned when I opened Mount St. Joseph, because I was the opening manager there, it's really nice to have people around you that support you in a way that, they know that what you're talking about. I remember when we were opening the account, one of our vendors came in, and I had one of the district chefs at the time with me. And the vendor came in and just started talking to the district chef, who really had just come in cold and really didn't know anything about the account or what we were doing or what we were seeing. And he kind of looked at me like, oh, what do you think, Al? Like, answer the guy, but the vendor instantly started talking to my male counterpart. So, there's obviously that stigma of male dominated industry, and this vendor automatically thought that my male counterpart was in charge. But having him turn to me and say, Alison, what do you think, instead of just answering the question, is huge.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that as well, because that's one of our kind of foundational principles in our training. We do a training, a lot of you have experience, called Connecting with Respect. And one of the stereotypical responses is someone walking into a room and immediately thinking that the male is in charge, discounting. And there's a great commercial I saw where you think the guy's in charge, guys got to do this and guys got to do that. And then they flip the script and the lady turns to the guy and says, thank you very much, we'll get back to you, right?
Yeah,
so it was actually,
Matt,
he was being
I should be in your training at this point.
Yes,
I should
yeah.
be the video.
You're my guest speaker. That's it.
Done.
So, Allie, thank you very much, Allison. That's terrific. And Allie, we're going to end with you on this particular topic because you kind of had a dual role. You know, you came up in a primarily, again, male-dominated industry from an operations perspective. And then, you know, to coin a phrase, you climbed that corporate ladder and broke that glass ceiling, which is also, you know, not easy task. And not in the time frame, you know, that we're talking about. We have the luxury of being in 2022, but when you think about years ago, specifically in our industry, pre-Compass, things were a lot different. You know, people's feelings were different, how we reacted was different. So, Allie, how has this shaped your career and as you continue to grow?
Well, you're 100% correct. Things are light years away from what they were when I started with CulinArt, even prior to CulinArt. But I think for me, I've always had an eyes wide open approach to everything, whether that's my personal life or my professional life. And I try to instill that, you know, with my team as well. You know, take in as much as you possibly can, understand everything, be a resource for everyone, be able to answer everyone's question or make sure that they know that if they come to you with a question, you're going to get the answer, whatever that takes. And I, you know, for me, that's what's guided me throughout my entire career. And I've always just stayed true to who I am. You know, I am who I am. I come to you as myself. And that's really worked in my favor, you know, throughout the years. You know, I've sat at many tables with salespeople, you know, where, you know, we're preparing for a presentation years and years ago, and, you know, the client happened to be a woman. So, okay, who's going? We have too many men in suits at this presentation, you know, and maybe that worked in my, you know, in my favor. Maybe that's what got me into the position with CulinArt when I started as, you know, associate director of sales. Certainly, I don't think it was because I was a woman, but I think it helped me. And I think that, you know, I've never really stopped to think about, you know, the men that I work with or the actual challenges. I've just sort of embraced them. And much like, you know, the others are saying here today, those challenges have really propelled me to do better, be better today than I was yesterday, and to just be that resource. And today, you know, things are so much different than they were back then. Our culture is different. Our leadership is different. You know, I work day in and day out with Mike Purcell, who's the president of our company. And he doesn't look at me as a woman. You know, we're at the, you know, we're equal, we're working together, we're brainstorming. He has answers, I have answers, he has questions, I have questions, and we're doing it together. And this company is a phenomenal place to be right now in 2022. It really is.
Yeah, and it's great, Allie. And our values have changed. You know, we talked about all the things that are different, and our values have gotten different too in a relatively, I mean, when you look at the big picture, short period of time. But Allie, I want to stay with you for a moment because we like to pick on you. And let's talk about something very important. You know, you have a department, you have people that work for you, you have an integrated team, and you're involved in a lot of different areas that reach out beyond marketing or brand strategy, which is terrific. What do you do, keeping in mind your struggle, your career, you're still learning? What do you do to empower women in the workplace in your own department and beyond from a company perspective?
I think it's come naturally over the years. The team that we've built, you know, that I surround myself, we're male, we're female, we're all walks of life, very diverse. But I think that, you know, we listen to one another, we hear what we're saying. I think that, you know, I hope that I've inspired some of the people that I work with, if not all. You know, 23 years with this company, I've worked with a lot of people, and you know, it's a lot of personalities, it's a lot of differences, but I always say, like, you come to the table and whoever you're sitting next to or across from, you're all different. We're all different, but we're at that table for a reason. You know, every perspective is going to be different, but it's necessary. You know, I've sat at many a boardroom table, you know, back in the old days when it was, you know, a little stuffy and a little staunch, but, you know, be yourself, speak up, And there's nothing that you can say that is going to, embarrass you or make you feel uncomfortable, because I just think that we all come to the table with something unique and different. And it's now more than ever, I see that in my team that I work with every day. We're not together anymore because we're all working remotely, but I feel like we're closer than we ever were.
Yeah, I think we speak more now via this system than we did before in a brick and mortar building, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
And we embrace that. So important, right? So important.
Totally.
Great, Allie. Thank you. Meghan, let's jump back out to California. How about you? What do you do at your location? Allie's in charge of different people within her department and over her area. You're in a location at the location level in charge of the entire team. What are you doing in light of Women's History Month and this conversation to empower women in the workplace from an operator's perspective?
Well, here at Archer, actually until just about a month ago when we got a transfer from the Salvation Army account, it was an all women team here as well, which was really interesting. Didn't plan it that way. It just happened. But one thing that I really do is I try to create an environment that like I always wanted when I was coming up through the industry. So I always give all of the different women and all the different people that work with me an opportunity to like share their opinions on something, or if they have something that they think that the girls would really like us to serve for lunch, like, yeah, let's try it. Let's go for it. Or maybe I'm even debating like, I was kind of thinking about doing this one thing, but maybe this other way's better. I don't know. What do you think? Like giving them the power to feel like they can make a difference on the day-to-day as well.
Yeah, it always works. We always say this, and we see it, in the actionable way at a location, right? Is that involve your people, they feel involved in the enterprise, and it works, right? It works on all different levels. And talking about empowering women, that's a perfect example to keep them involved in the process. And, using yourself as an example is terrific also. Wonderful. Let's jump over to Alison. Alison, from your perspective, how are you empowering women in the workplace at your location?
I think it's really important, not even just in my location, but as women hospitality professionals, to celebrate each other's accomplishments. Because it's kind of male dominated, it's easy to get lost in the competition, and it's easy to kind of try to one up the manager next to you. But I think, it's more empowering to come together and celebrate each other's accomplishments, and realizing that others' accomplishments doesn't mean that you're doing a poor job. It means that as a team, we're getting something done really spectacularly.
Yeah, that's great. So important. Yeah. Complimenting someone and, shining a light on them, so to speak, doesn't diminish what you're doing. That's a great point. And sometimes leadership, we think, oh my gosh, if I'm talking to that person too much, or I'm giving them too much credit, it's taking away from me. But what that's doing is that's essentially empowering your team, and you're building up your team.
And it really doesn't have to be grand. It can be as simple, on the operations level where I'm at, it could be as simple as, wow, the salad bar looks really colorful today. Great job. Like it can be quick, it can be simple, but celebrating those even little accomplishments really goes a long way.
Terrific. Thank you, Alison. I appreciate it. And Heather, how about you? How are you empowering, people in your location? Because a little different, you're not a corporate, vice president, and you're not in one location anymore. You're kind of traveling to other locations. So you even have more of an area that you can influence. So what are you doing to empower women in your location as well, and the ones that you visit?
So, like you said, I'm currently running 15 accounts with my district manager, but I also reach out to Lori Wills. And, I try, and there's a couple of people in her district that I know are green, but I'm like, okay, what's your 5-year plan? What are you thinking? Do you see I love the company. I'm a huge advocate for CulinArt. And so I'm like, where do you see yourself, and how can I help you get there? Let me help me out with these caterings. Let me see where you're at. Let me see where you are on this paperwork. How can I get you more into ordering so you can be well-rounded? Because that's what my old manager did with me. She gave me more and more and more. And just when I thought I couldn't handle it, I did some more, and I did some more. And now that I'm out here, and I didn't realize it at the time, but all those tools that she was giving me, I have as an arsenal for each and every location that I go to now. And I help the managers deal with situations in their account. How can they build up, not just women, but men as well? And, let's build these employees up. We need a future, and again, like she said, that you can't just assume that the person's going to take your job from you. If you're doing a good job, the job is yours already. You can just move to the next position, and that person would just be seamlessly put in place. It's nice to watch people grow along with you.
Yes, and it's fulfilling, right? It's fulfilling in a way that is hard to describe. Interesting that all of you said similar items, but one thread was telling our story. And I love the fact that, we can have all of these wonderful things and we can make all of this impactful change. But if we're not telling our story appropriately, what good is it, right? That's why all of you sharing, becoming recruitment ambassadors for the company, and a series like this, Round the Table, brings our stories to life, not only for our team members, but for our client partners as well. I have one more question I'd love to discuss. I think it's probably my favorite, and we're going to start with Allie. We'll start with you as we round up. Believe it or not, we've been on for quite a while already. Time goes very quick. And I appreciate all of your support and your valuable time. Allie, from a women's perspective, right? Women's History Month, shining a spotlight on all the fabulous women that make up not only CulinArt, but Compass Group as well. Is there anyone either in your personal life or your professional life that has inspired you, a woman that you've always looked to for that inspiration, even on those tough days?
8,000%. It would be my mother. It is my mother. She's retired now. She's in, South Carolina, tending to her pool and her garden. But, throughout most of my life, she was, my kids call her Booby. She was Booby Suits because she was always in a suit. She reverted back to being a hippie now. She's not in her suits anymore. But, I've worked with her alongside her pretty much most of my life up until, CulinArt. And then, she started as a waitress. She put herself back into college. She put herself into graduate school. She became, she went from waitress to cafe manager to special events. She moved into development and fundraising. And like I said earlier, the one thing that always held true was she was always herself. She was always Maria. She was always approachable. She always had an answer or would get you an answer. And she inspired everyone around her, obviously, including myself. So, I celebrate her, today, this month, every month she's enjoying herself.
Isn't that nice? And Alice, she's still with you. That's the most important part of it, right? Mm-hmm. And being able to enjoy all the fruits of her labor. That's great. Thank you, Allie. We appreciate you sharing that. Meghan, anyone that come to mind, either personally or professionally, as we put a bow on Women's History Month, from your standpoint?
I think I'm going to have to go down the same road as Allie. I mean, my mom is one of the toughest women that I've ever known in my life. Like, she doesn't take any flack from anybody. And she started out in the banking industry as a teller. And I mean, gosh, it must have only taken her maybe 3 or 4 years. The next thing, she was the bank manager. And then she was the regional auditor for all of Southern California. And it was with with a big bank, not just like small time banks. I mean, like national level banks. So nobody could ever tell her that she wasn't doing what she was supposed to be doing, or that she wasn't doing something right. And she would go and explain to them and break it all down. Like, nope, I'm following everything exactly to the letter. I'm doing it all 100%.
And still inspires you today, right? And you bring that work ethic, just like Allie was just mentioning, to what you do every single day. It's interesting when you look at these things and you see that no matter how old or young you are, these things stay with you forever, right? They really, guide your life, so to speak. That's wonderful, Megan. Thank you. Allison, anyone come to mind from your standpoint?
Well, obviously my mother, because she's gonna watch this, and if I don't say her, I'm gonna get flack. So I have to say my mom, of course.
Better.
But professionally, I really want to say my students, because at the Mount, I'm able to not only work with them, you know, for breakfast and lunch services, but I teach a culinary club as well as do summer camps, and all focusing on culinary arts. So being able to work with them and kind of be a teacher to them inspires me to, you know, get up every morning.
That's great. And I think if your mother watches this, and we hope she does, she'll be very pleased.
She's
We're going to have all the mothers watch.
She's going to say, I know I inspire you. It's fine.
Yeah. Thank you, Allison.
Of course.
Heather, how about from your standpoint? Any women that come to mind, whether personally or professionally?
Culinary wise, I actually have two strong women who actually work for the company. I have Nicole Fusco and Mcquaid Barr. You know, I met these two ladies, and you know, and they just light a fire under you. I was like, oh, I like you. You know, they're really into the food, and, you know, even know their stuff behind the scenes, and can really explain everything in the proper way, and really show you a way to get around any situation. Just really amazing women, and really great for the company. I really, if I need anything or get in a jam, I call them up and say, hey, you know, I need help with this menu, or, you know, what are you thinking about this? Or this is a situation that I'm in, what can I do? And, you know, they just help me navigate it.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you. And thank you all. This has been one of my favorite episodes, actually, getting to chat with all of you, hearing about all of your experiences, and really highlighting, you know, March, which is our Women in Culinary Month, Women's History Month. And just a couple of quick plugs for you. You should follow us. We've got two very unique YouTube channels, CulinArt Connect. You can see every episode of Round the Table, which is very interesting. We also have CulinArt L&D Solutions, which is a best practice training series featuring small vignettes of training practices and best practices geared towards, again, the operator, whether it's the leadership person or whether it's the hourly team member. Once again, I'm Matt Santarpia. I thank you for your time, and we'll see you on our next episode. Have a great day.